What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Zoe, and today I'm going to go over what I read in September. I had a really great month of reading in September. I read 13 books total, 337 pages out of all of those 13 books. I listened to 3 audiobooks. I read 1 graphic novel, 1 nonfiction, 6 manga, and 5 fiction books. I gave 1 star to 2 books, 2 stars to 0 books, 3 stars to 2 books, 4 stars to 5 books, and 5 stars to 3 books. So overall, I think I had a really great month of reading. I am just going to talk to you really quick about the manga that I read. I'm not going to do too much of a review. These are mostly books that I talked about in the past. I'm just flying through some of these series, really enjoying them overall. The first manga I'll talk about is Silent Voice. I read volumes 3, 4, 5, and 6 during the month of September. I obtained all 4 of these from a used bookstore, and because they were just sitting on my TBR shelf, I was super in the mood for manga, and I just flew through them. This series is really good so far. I don't really like rating mangas on an individual basis. I kind of want to wait until I read the last one, which is volume 7. I need to get it and finish it, and then I'll let you guys know my thoughts. But overall, I'm enjoying this. It's not my favorite manga, and I was expecting a little bit more. There are parts that are super confusing, and just like you can tell that it just jumps sometimes, which mangas tend to do, but overall I am really enjoying this manga. One of the other mangas that I read in the month of September was volume 4 of The Promised Neverland. I am really enjoying this manga. It's a lot more intense. It's probably the most dark manga I've read so far. A lot of stuff happened in this volume, particularly a lot of stuff that was building and I was waiting for in volumes 1, 2, and 3. It was such a slow burn, and then stuff really went down in volume 4, and I was very happy with that because I was getting a little impatient. Really enjoy this series. I think it's underrated, and I do really recommend it. The last manga that I read in the month of September is called Tokyo Terariba Girls. I just butchered that. Terariba. I'm probably still butchering that. Tokyo Terariba Girls. This is from the creator who created Princess Jellyfish. I have not read that manga. I really want to read that manga, but just haven't gotten around to it yet. That one is super big. I know tons of people have read that one. I grabbed this on a bookstore run one day, and I just thought it sounded really fun. It's marketed as like Sex and the City meets manga, and I just was looking for something really fun and lighthearted with maybe a little bit more of an adult characters, because a lot of the mangas I'm reading right now have like high school characters in them. And this was really funny. I am stoked about this series. There's only 2 volumes out right now, and I think the 3rd one comes out this month in October, and I'm really excited to just continue on with it. It's about like a woman in her 30s, and she's not married, and she feels all this pressure to get married. It's very silly. It's pretty lighthearted. She's got her other adult friends that are not in relationships, and it's just funny. Like, it's very comical. I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to pick up volume 2. I feel like this might be one of my new favorite mangas. I also read a graphic novel in September that I really enjoyed, and that was Awkward by Svetlana Chmykova. This is an adorable middle grade story about a girl who is attending a new middle school, and on her very first day of school, she trips and accidentally runs into a boy in the hallway in front of everyone. That is mortifying for a middle schooler, and of course everyone that witnesses it starts to make fun of her and the boy, calling her his nerd girlfriend or whatever. The main character, she is a part of the art club, and the boy that she ran into is part of the science club, and they're kind of rivals in this school. After she trips into him in the hallway, she really feels like she needs to apologize, but she also just feels too nervous to do so. So we see a lot of her internal struggle with just trying to get up the courage to apologize to this boy. We also see some rivalry happen between the 2 clubs that they're a part of, and just how it comes together in the end is really sweet. I was so impressed with this middle grade graphic novel. I've read a few. I think they're really fun and enjoyable to read, but this one specifically was just so sweet. It also was full of a diverse cast of characters, tons of people of different races and backgrounds and disabilities, and it wasn't about that. Like, they were just represented in the book, which was so refreshing. I really, really liked this book. I loved our main character. She was super relatable, very funny, dramatic middle schooler. I absolutely adored it. I ended up giving this graphic novel 4 out of 5 stars. I loved it. One of the first books that I read in the month of September, I did listen to it on an audiobook, but I also have the physical copy, and that is Always and Forever, Lara Jean. This is by Jenny Han. This is the 3rd book in the trilogy To All the Boys I Loved Before, and I loved this book so much, you guys. This continues our story following Lara Jean in high school. She's a senior and she's getting ready for college. Honestly, that's the majority of the book without giving away spoilers if you haven't read the series. Oh my goodness, I have talked about this series before. You guys know how much I love it. I'm just so impressed by the quality of characters in Jenny Han's books. I love this cast. I just think they are so believable. And for me, that's really hard to find in young adult books. I think that too often the characters are just way out there or just not relatable, and this is just not the case in this book. I was so pleasantly surprised with this one. I didn't love the second one, and that one's called P.S. I Still Love You. That one was okay for me. I honestly feel like the second one's unnecessary. Give me the first book and this last book and I'm just fine. The second book was fine, but this one totally takes the cake. I think it's my favorite one in the series. I remember so clearly what it was like being a senior, getting ready for college, and just that whole transition in life, and to read about it from such a sweet character. It was just so good. I cried so hard at one of the end scenes, you guys, just because it was so precious. I loved this. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Jenny Han, I can't wait for you to write another series. Please, please, please. Another book that I read in the month of September was The Perfect Mother by Amy Malloy. This story follows a cast of characters. It's a group of mothers who all have had babies around the exact same time. I think in the month of May. I'm pretty sure they call themselves the May Mothers. This is an adult mystery thriller. It follows the story of one of the mothers in that group. They all go out one night to a bar to let loose, and her newborn is taken that night that she's out. So that's essentially what this book is. I did not love this mystery thriller. I was super confused. There were so many characters and just I didn't care for them. I'm not really someone that has to like characters in a book in order to like the book, but I just didn't love this. Like, the twist at the end was just kind of okay. It felt lazy. That's a little harsh. I'm sorry, but I just did not like this. I'm also not a big fan of the trope where women who are unable to have children are depicted as these like crazy women who only want children and their whole life is destroyed because they can't have children. Like, I just don't really like that trope. I just think it's really cliche, and yeah, this was just weird. This was just weird. I did not like it. I gave it 1 out of 5 stars. Not a fan, unfortunately. Just not my cup of tea. I also read in the month of May, no, it's not May. I also listened to a few audiobooks in the month of September, one of them being One Dark Throne by Kendar Blake. This is the sequel to the 3 Dark Crowns series, and I loved it. Oh my goodness. This series follows a fantasy world where every generation bears 3 sisters, and the 3 sisters have to grow up knowing that they need to fight till the death, and the remaining sister will be crowned the queen. There's so much more to it than that. It is so good. I am not a huge fantasy lover. It's really difficult for me to find a fantasy book that I can just get lost in, but this is one of those books, you guys. I love the characters. I love the twists. I love the world. I love everything about this series. It's so good. And the second one absolutely did not disappoint. I don't have much more to say about it. I just absolutely loved this series. If you're someone who is looking for a new, really solid fantasy series to get wrapped up in, I recommend this one. The first one was a little difficult to get started. Some people I have read that it's hard for the second one to get started too. A little bit of slow starts, but man, when things come together, it's just so good. She like just came out with the third one too, and I need to get it now. Another audiobook that I listened to in the month of September, before I forget it, was Gay Girl, Good God, The Story of Who I Was and Who God Has Always Been by Jackie Hill Perry. This was a phenomenal book, memoir, biography. I was looking for an audiobook to fly through and my brother had suggested this book. I checked it out on Scribd and I couldn't stop listening to it as soon as I started it. I think the title is pretty self-explanatory. I'm not gonna go into it too much, but I just thought this was such a phenomenal read. Not just speaking necessarily even to the gay community, but just everyone who's human, who sins, who falls short, who is imperfect. Calling those people out, calling me out. I felt so convicted when I read this. I absolutely loved it. It was so good. Jackie Hill Perry is a phenomenal poet. She actually does a lot of slam poetry, and she actually read the audiobook as well, and it just was so good. The prose was beautiful. The allegories, the imagery, the metaphors, everything about this piece of work was so good. I cannot recommend this enough. I was just so refreshed after reading it. Very convicted. Very good, not boring at all. It's her story. I feel weird giving ratings to people's stories, like memoirs. I feel weird rating those because it's like, that's someone's life. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was absolutely amazing. Another book that I read in the month of September was Beautiful Broken Girls. This is by Kim Savage. This story reminded me a lot of 13 Reasons Why. It followed that same kind of story where a boy was in love with a girl and the girl commits suicide and she leaves 7 notes for the boy to go on this like treasure hunt to find after she dies, leading up to reasons to why she died. She died with her sister as well. One night they dove off the local town's quarry and put rocks in their pocket and drowned. I was not a fan of this book. I loved probably the first 175 pages or so, but it started revealing things that really weren't talked about in the like description of the book, which became very prominent themes throughout the whole novel, and I just wasn't a fan. I also wasn't a fan of 13 Reasons Why. I just don't like the idea, I think, of someone committing suicide and leaving like trails of notes and stuff. It's just not something I like to read about, I think. I don't know, maybe if there's another book out there that does it better, I just need to find it. But there's just so much that the description does not tell you that happens in this book. I don't really feel like there's spoilers because it wasn't a twist or anything, but basically like one of the sisters believed she was a saint. She would have holes in her hands. I think that's called stigmata, where you're just like randomly have holes in your hands like where Jesus was crucified. It was very weird. I was not expecting that. And then the boy in the book, it's revealed that he has gone through a trauma, but it's never really fully talked about. I don't know. It was just weird, you guys. It was a weird book. I'm disappointed in it. I am proud of myself though, because this was my random selection from my TBR jar and I read it. So the last one I didn't read. This one I forced myself to get through. I didn't like it. I don't even really recommend it. It's just too weird. Overall, I ended up giving this one 1 out of 5 stars as well. I saved one of the best for last. One of the last books that I read during the month of September was Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessl. I'm sure you guys have heard of this book. It just came out in August and it is so good. I have seen mixed reviews. The thing is I've heard that people who have read Night Film by Marisha Pessl have not liked this book. I have not read Night Film. I loved this book. So I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if people were like comparing it because people really like Night Film. Although now I really want to read Night Film. This was so good. Okay, I should tell you guys what it's about. Oh, but did you notice? Like, look at this cover. Do you see this cover? It could be just me, but I had no clue that this mountain was a face the whole time. It's so creepy, but it's a face. I'm still freaked out by it. I don't know. I still think that is so weird. Also, my friends think she has a really long eyebrow. I think it's normal. What do you guys think? So this story follows our main character. She is a freshman in college, I believe, during this time. And we jump into the story where her boyfriend died a year prior. She and her boyfriend were friends with 4 other people. They had this amazing friendship group. However, when her boyfriend died, she really took herself away from that friend group and hasn't hung out with them, spoken to them, anything in about a year. She ends up getting a text message from one of those friends inviting her out to a party they're having for her birthday, and she ends up going. This is where the story really takes off, and it was so good. They end up getting visited by this old man that night and essentially are trapped in living the same day over and over again until they can vote on who is allowed to live. It's so crazy. I loved that concept. I don't know why, but it was just so original, I thought. I mean, it was basically like Groundhog's Day, but way more intense and just better. A lot of information starts coming out about her boyfriend, how he died, why he died, and just mysteries start unraveling before all of the friends. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I really liked the intensity. I thought the pacing of the writing was really good. I really enjoyed the way that things unraveled. I really thought just the whole world of them having to relive the day over and over again and what it did to them, how it messed with some of them, was just so believable and crazy. The author just jumped right in, and I really enjoyed that. Really, it was like a chapter of the background and then you just jumped into the story. I'm such a fan of that. I'm not one who likes to read a ton of background to set up for what's about to happen. I just thought this was so good. We read it for my book club and a lot of us really enjoyed it. I'm so glad because I thought I was gonna be the only one that totally dug it. The more I think about it, the more I really loved it. I think I ended up giving it, I keep going back and forth with what I want to rate it because it was really good. But in the moment, I wasn't like super, like I was into it, but I wasn't like, it didn't feel, you know that like favorite book feeling where you're like, this is one of my new favorite books. You're reading it and you just know. That didn't really happen with this one, but I did really like it and I would strongly recommend it to everybody to read. I just want everyone to try this book out. I think I'm gonna give it like a 4.5 stars. It wasn't my favorite book, but I really don't have a lot of negative things to say about it, but I would like to reserve my 5 stars for my favorite books, so that's just what I'm gonna do. Well, those are all of the books that I read in the month of September. If you're still hanging in here and watching this video, thank you so much for watching. I read a lot during the month of September, which was great because August was not a great reading month for me. Typically at this time, I like to select a random book to read from my TBR shelf, but for October, I decided not to do that because I have a very lengthy October TBR, very specific to spooky things, so I'm not gonna do the random selection, but I'm still sticking with it, you guys, don't worry. I'm still working on clearing out that TBR shelf, I promise. All right, you guys, well, those are all of the books that I read in the month of September. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your favorite book that you read in the month of September. I really want to know. Tell me below. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you soon in my next video. Bye.